Hey everybody, welcome. It's Casey, and I am going to be answering your questions. Live Q&A session coming at you. Actually, I was going to put myself on speaker view. I'll go back to it when we if we open up the floor with other questions. So I'm going to buzz through the week 2 progress form questions that some of you had asked, and then I'll give those of you the opportunity on the call to ask some questions as well, and we'll go from there. So just kind of jump in right here. If someone's asking, or they're telling me I haven't sweated from any of the workouts, but they still seem just right to me. Am I supposed to be doing anything differently in order to sweat, or will I still get results without sweating from the workouts? So great question. It really just depends on the individual. I think some people are heavy sweaters. Some people are not so much. It might depend on the climate that you're in. It might depend on if you've got your air conditioning on, all kinds of things. I think you're more likely to work up a sweat if you're doing some cardio exercise where you're raising that heart rate up and keeping it up there, okay? We're kind of in somewhat of an interval type training with the strength training, so we do increase the heart rate, but it doesn't always stay up that elevated, or depending on the level of weights that you're using, you may not just be getting that heart rate up enough to require that heart and lungs to be working real hard, which then is going to be, you're cooling your body off with that perspiration. So I guess long answer is it's okay if you're not sweating real heavily at this point. I would encourage you, as we keep moving through the weeks here in the beginner boot camp, to try to crank that intensity level up a little bit, either with lifting heavier weights, or we're going to, can always dial up the reps a little bit as well. You may find it's a little bit more intense. And if that's the case, you're sweating. Doesn't mean you're not getting a good workout if you're not completely drenched in sweat or even sweating. In the wintertime, it gets so dry in my house, I barely sweat doing some pretty intense exercise. Okay, so it really just depends on some of those factors. And some individuals are more sweaty than others. Some just sweat sitting there. Some need to take a lot more than that. Get a couple more people coming in here. So, okay, let's see. So someone's asking, I'm trying to get stronger and avoid injury as I age. I'm overweight and understand I need to lose a few pounds. I know that strength training will help me build muscle. The scale has not changed since I began. I do notice my body changing. I'm eating healthier and working out several days a week. Should I add cardio to my workouts? The scale is not my friend. Okay, great question. So you're noticing your body changing. To me, that's a really good sign, okay? So the scale may not change, or it may not change very much, but it doesn't mean that there's not progress happening. Body composition change can occur. And that's when we start to see I'm in a smaller pant size all of a sudden, but the scale hasn't moved, or has moved very little. Okay, so body comp change is a real thing. It takes some time, for that to happen. Is there going to be huge changes within a couple of weeks? Probably not. I would say the primary thing that you should be focusing in on, if you are wanting to lose some weight and you have extra weight to lose, fat loss, is food. Okay, so are you monitoring your calorie intake? Are you eating a calorie deficit? If you're not going to see that scale move. Yes, you may still see some body comp changes with the strength training that you're doing, especially if you're eating sufficient protein. But nutrition is a big key factor. So should you add some cardio? It may temporarily help you increase that overall calorie burn in the day. But the best results with long-term sustainability is going to be coming if you're changing your nutrition. So, I'm just going to mute here. You need to focus on nutrition, because the cardio increase, yes, it may be good and beneficial. It's often not sustainable at the level that you need to do it to in order to see that true weight loss. Okay, so focus on nutrition. If you need some help, reach out. Happy to kind of go from there. Somebody's saying, I've passed most of the muscle soreness, but in general, do you recommend working muscle groups that may still be sore from prior workout? So that's why we try to take that full day of rest in between. Hopefully you've got recovery going on, and the soreness has diminished somewhat. If there's a little bit of soreness, okay. If it's pretty intensely, still pretty heavily sore, then I would say wait an extra day. Give it that extra time to recover. In general, as you're progressing through the workouts, your body's kind of getting used to some of these moves and the exercises, and that level of soreness should diminish as you continue to be more regular with your strength training. So therefore, a day in between is pretty good. Okay, so my answer is yes and no. It kind of depends on exactly what's going on, but if it's real intense soreness, you're better off to wait a day. I've noticed a tightness in my hips. Is there something specific I can do to help this, or will they just open up as I continue to follow the workout plan? And also, is it common to notice more flexibility and balance on one side versus the other? So great questions. Hip mobility can be a big issue for a lot of women. I will say there is a yoga video within the app and within the website focused on hip mobility. So there's going to be some good stretches and movements in that video. Go give it a try. Okay. That should help. Certainly stretching is going to be helpful as well. Movement in general, walking is going to be great for that as well. But go check out some of the moves in that hip mobility video. And if you don't have time to do the full video, maybe just pick up some of the moves and incorporate that, into your stretching. That will help. It's common to notice more flexibility and balance on one side than the other. Sure, definitely you're going to have a dominant leg. If you're doing some of that single leg work, it's not uncommon to feel one side is, stronger, better balance, more dominant than the other. Definitely. For me, it's my right leg, and I can feel it. It's weaker on step ups. It's weaker on single leg deadlifts. It is. So it's very common. Good question. Let's see. I was doing some weights prior to boot camp, and I have 11-pound dumbbells. I feel like I could do more. Should I wait to see how I get on as the boot camp progresses, or buy some more? So if you were doing a little bit of strength training before, I would say it's time. If you're feeling like you could do more, it's okay. We're going to start pushing up in week 3 and 4 here, and I'm going to be encouraging you to go a little bit heavier if you're feeling comfortable doing so. So yeah, absolutely. Generally, I'm recommending going up by about either 2 or 5 pound increments. So I think she's in Canada, she's saying kilograms here, so 11 pounds. So if it was a 10-pound weight, I would say go up to a 12 or a 15. And for your upper body, okay, it's going to be lighter weights typically versus lower, and smaller increments. So like for a shoulder press, going from a 10 to a 15 is going to be a pretty big jump, but maybe a 10 to a 12 is a little bit more comfortable increase there. For a squat or a lunge, generally heavier weights, we can probably go up by 5-pound increments. Okay. With time, you're going to need all of those weights though, right? Because hopefully you're going to continue with the progression with the lifting, but I still pull out my 10s, still pull out my 7s or 8s sometimes. So yeah, you're going to need them for sure. Someone said post beginner bootcamp options, I get lost trying to pick my own workouts. So there is a schedule. So I'm not sure if you're in the Facebook group, but hopefully, you're filling out this form, so you must be. So at the top of the page, there's a schedule pin. So I tell you exactly what workouts, and then I post them in the bootcamp group on that day. So you can see what workout I'm doing, and then it's posted in the group, and it's also available on the app and then the website. And it'll be the very first workout that shows up on the beginner strength category. That's the newest one. So on the app, it's the very first one on the top, and on the website, it's the very first one on the left-hand side. That's the newest workout. So tomorrow when I finish Tuesday morning's workout, I'll post it and it'll be available right there. And I'll also put the direct link into the Facebook group. So take a look at that. If you have more specific questions, just email me and I'll give you some better direction because I don't want you to be picking and choosing your own right now for sure. Okay, is it best to eat before or after my workouts? Is it normal to use lighter weights for upper body and heavier or lower? So I think I answered that second question. Eating is important for sure around your workouts. What I typically say is, yes, it's best to have some carbohydrates on board coming into the workout. So especially if you're like haven't eaten yet in the morning, but some of you get up early and just jump right into the workout. So something that's easily digestible, such as maybe like a half a banana, maybe a handful of dry cereal. You're not going to want to eat a whole lot because then that can cause some GI upset, and it needs to be pretty easily digestible. So carbohydrates are broken down more quickly. So I wouldn't, push heavy protein or fat right before a workout. Post-workout, definitely have a good combination of some healthy carbs on board as well as some protein. So an example would be like a Greek yogurt and some berries. Okay, or follow up with your typical breakfast, which could be maybe a piece of whole grain toast and some eggs and egg whites. Protein and carbohydrates with a little bit of fruit would be good too. Okay, so combination of protein, carbs, some healthy fats afterwards. Closer you get to the workout beforehand, keep it pretty small amount of mostly carbohydrate type foods. Having some neck pain after a few different workouts, wonder if I'm not stretching or have bad form while lifting. So could be a lot of things going on here, definitely. Good that you're aware of it. I would encourage you to use a mirror or video your form. If you want to share it with me, I'd be happy to take a look at it. My guess is you're probably cranking the neck in a certain position, which is not good for your, obviously you're dealing with some pain afterwards. So just be real mindful of it. I always try to remind you keeping that head and neck in alignment. So like if we're in a bench over position doing like a deadlift or a row, you know, you don't want to be cranking that neck up. It's easy to do, you know, you're just here and you're just pulling away, but you really want to kind of just tuck that chin in, keep that head and neck in alignment with that tailbone. So it depends on the lifts that we're doing, but my guess is it might be that form. So pay close attention to it, okay? Of course, if it continues, get it evaluated. If it's getting worse, you definitely should be seen and talk to your doctor about it for sure. Let's see. Okay, some nice comments here. Will the videos be available after the challenge is over? So your access to the workouts is good for the duration of the boot camp, which runs through July 1st. So after that, they are available if you wanted to jump into the Inspire Fitness membership. But if you're only doing the boot camp package and you're like, no, I don't want to continue, then your access will end on July 1st. So it's only good for the duration of the program. Okay, someone's asking about protein powder. So for supplement form, if you are someone who can tolerate dairy, I definitely am a huge fan of whey protein powder. It's one of the best sources of protein, very absorbable, and a great way to efficiently hit your protein target while staying within your calorie deficit because the protein calorie ratio is excellent. So my recommendation for protein powder is choose a whey if possible. Otherwise, there are plant-based options that you could do if you have issues with the dairy protein, which is whey. If you're looking for my recommendation for brand, you can go to Legion, and I'll pin the link here. I do have a promo code, so if you use the code INSPIRE, you do save 20% on your first order and then get extra points on subsequent orders. So if you wanted to check those out, some of my favorite flavors are the Dutch chocolate. I like the salted caramel and the birthday cake. Those are the three that I kind of have on rotation. So there's some really great options there, but all kinds of different flavors. And the whey, regardless of if you use that brand or not, I recommend a whey protein supplement for sure. Okay, still struggling to get a decent amount of protein. Any other ideas? So again, supplement sometimes can be real helpful. It's okay. It's totally fine. Healthy, good source of protein to use. Dairy, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, string cheese can be great options. Of course, your leaner, the better. So things like chicken or fish are going to be excellent options. Leaner cuts of beef and pork can be fine as well. Tuna is a great one. Edamame. You're going to get some protein coming from nuts, seeds, and beans. So all kinds of some good options there. It's just a matter of really starting to think about protein every time you're going to eat. Okay, so I know it might be different for a lot of you. You don't really think about it, but protein first and then build the meal around the protein. When you can start to do that, it's going to be easier for you to get that total protein number up throughout the day. Should knees be slightly bent always while working out? I thought about this one when I saw it earlier. I would just say you probably want to avoid like locking the knees real tight, okay? Like if we're doing a deadlift position, you're not going into a real deep bend, but a slight bend in the knee. Same thing with like a bent over row. In press, shoulder press, if we're doing a standing position, slight bend in the knee is a good idea. Sometimes I'll stagger my stance, right? So just to kind of give us a little bit more stability. That's the case. One of my knees is pretty decently locked, not super tight, but there's not much of a bend in my knee if I'm in a staggered stance. So I think it kind of just depends, but I would say in general, probably a good idea to have just a slight bend in the knee and not to lock them completely. What are your thoughts on, we're almost done with these questions. What are your thoughts on kettlebells versus weights? So kettlebell can be great and there's some great moves that you can do with it. I just know a lot of women don't have weights and kettlebells or an assortment of sizes. So I'm not against having them. And I think for some of the lifts that we do use just one weight, like that goblet squat or sumo squat. That can be real helpful. But often as you're progressing with your weights, you're going to need two of the same weights anyway. So you're better off just to invest, in my opinion, in the dumbbells, because then you've got two, right? Because eventually, hopefully, you're going to be doing that weight with like a squat or a lunge, maybe a bench press. So it's okay to have, and if you want to grab it when we're doing some like single weighted kind of things, totally fine. If you want to do some kettlebell swings, those are great exercise as well. But it's not something I try to just use the equipment that is available to most, right? I don't want you to have a ton of equipment available to you. So do you recommend more than 2 lifting workouts? Yes, once we get through the beginner boot camp, right? So our whole goal is to ease you in slowly, teach you the fundamentals of form and technique, and start to establish that regular exercise routine. So if I were to throw 3 to 4 days on you and you're just, fresh, brand new at this, it's a little overwhelming. So that's why we start with the 2 days. There is an optional third strength training workout this week on the schedule. I put it on for Saturday. You could do it Saturday or Sunday. So pick a day over the weekend to do it. It's optional, totally optional. But yes, eventually towards the end of the boot camp, I'm going to say it's time for you to progress. And I will recommend lifting 3 days a week and having a day of rest in between, unless you're doing the opposite muscle group. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday is a typical recommended schedule. So that was all of the questions from the week 2 progress form. I've got a handful of ladies here on the live call. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? Go ahead and shout it out or type it in the chat as I pull up the Facebook post to see if anyone posted there. So any questions on live here?
You may have addressed this. This is Trina.
Hi, Trina.
You may have addressed this before, or it may be a little more intricate, but I know that given body weight, as far as how many grams of protein should we aim for, because it's going to be different, I realize, for everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm like, do we aim for, because I've seen anywhere from 0.36 to a gram of protein per body weight,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, that's a lot of protein, because that's a lot to eat. Like, that is a lot. So I didn't know if there's a calculator, a macro calculator I should look at, one that you recommend, or.
Yeah, great question. Great question. Yep. So, so there's a couple of schools of thought on the protein recommendation. I personally like to use it as a percentage of your total calories. Just calculate that as I'm doing that for my clients who are in a calorie deficit. So if you are trying for fat loss, right, which requires a calorie deficit, hopefully you're strength training. So with those two things, the recommendation for protein based on it's a kilogram, so you have to do the kilogram conversion first, but it's 1.6 up to 2.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, let's just do a quick calculation. So let's say somebody is 180 pounds, turn it into kilograms, which would be divided by 2.2, which is 81 kilograms. So let's just say, I've said 1.6 to 2.4. Let's just say times 2 to cut the difference right in the middle. That would be about 163 grams of protein for somebody who is approximately 180 pounds in a calorie deficit and strength training. Okay, so that's just one example. Individual needs vary, right? So it depends on goals, depends on a lot of different things going on here. That's why I kind of like to take that into consideration when I'm providing that information for the clients I'm working with for nutrition coaching, but that gives you a ballpark, some parameters. I will say, for women who maybe have a lot of weight to lose, right? Maybe they're 256 pounds. You're going to want to use your goal weight or closer to your goal weight for that calculation. Because if we're using, 256 times, that's going to be a whole ton of protein. That's going to be really, really tough and probably more than what you need. So it's kind of based on those factors as well. Current weight, goal weight, activity level, I would take consideration in, age, other medical conditions going on as I calculate that. But in general, 1.6 to 2.4 grams per kilogram is a good target. I like to use, obviously I do it for my clients, but for those who I'm not working with, I like to guide them to, it is tdeecalculator.net. So total daily energy expenditure calculator.net. And this will help you determine your calorie needs for weight management. And then they have kind of a macro spread that they will give you. So kind of based on some different things, you can kind of pick higher carb, lower carb, mid carb kind of range. So that's a good reference for you all to look at as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. Other questions? Forgot to put it on gallery when Trina was talking. Anyone on the call have additional questions for me? I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, couple reminders. We've got live workout coming up Tuesday morning. The workouts are going to bump to 35 minutes for this week. Okay, so I know we were kind of squeezing between 30 and 32 or 3 anyway, but we're going to go for a full 35 minutes for both workouts this week. There is an optional workout if you wanted to hit it on Saturday or Sunday. You totally could. It is on the schedule. I will also post the link directly in the group. I'll probably post it Friday just so you've got it available for you over the weekend. It's completely optional. Okay. I'm recommending 2 strength training workouts each week for the 4 weeks, but I know a lot of you are like, give me a third. I want to do another one. So you can try that one out for sure. And then there's also the low impact HIIT options that you could do if you'd really want to try some additional cardio. But it's summer. So if you're going out for a walk or a bike ride, or you like to go swimming, or maybe it's kayaking, all of that movement is amazing. Okay. You don't have to spend the time, doing a video if you feel like you're getting daily movement in. So key, getting those daily steps up, but also if there's other cardio that you would like to do. For me, it's like, I don't get to ride my bike all winter long. So I want to get out and do more of that in the summer months. It's enjoyable to me. It still is a great workout. So I do a little bit more HIIT in the winter months when I'm kind of stuck inside. So, so those options are there for you. I mentioned, to someone who had the question with the hip mobility, there's the yoga, there's like more of an ab focused one. There's a hip mobility. There's a shoulder mobility one. So you can pull that up in the library and give that a try if you'd like. Of course, there's the core workouts and the stretching. I just encourage you not to go crazy with the strength training, right? I'm only suggesting 2 to 3 times a week. If you are going to do that optional one over the weekend, I don't want you doing a lift every single day. That's too much. So, but also a reminder, we've got the sweaty selfie contest going on this week. So I see, I scroll through it. It really makes me happy. So thank you for sharing your smiling faces. It helps me to get to know you all a little bit more. And I think it's a great way to, keep encouraging each other, right? Like you're seeing somebody get it done, you're motivating each other to get it done, which is great. But sweaty selfie contest, basically just post a new post in the group and show us your post-workout picture. Maybe you went for a walk and you want to take a picture of the scenery behind you and with the walk. That's perfect. We'd love to see it. And then for every single time you post, you're entered into a drawing for merchandise. So I'll be drawing the winner over the weekend. So sweaty selfies, I want to see them, post them. I'd love to see it. So any questions on that, just let me know. Otherwise, anyone else on the call have anything additional they'd like to add? Feedback, ideas, suggestions, I welcome them. You're all so quiet tonight. Okay, well, thank you for joining me. It's lovely to see you all here. Hope you have a wonderful evening. And I'll look forward to seeing some of you on live, and otherwise get it done. Tuesday workout. We'll get it done tomorrow. So have a good night, everybody.